this video, we're going to be discussing the MonsterVerse Mothra, but we will also be comparing the current Mothra to previous versions. So without further ado, let's take a look at the Queen of the Monsters and what we have so far. Many viewers seem to be upset that they killed off Mothra and King of the Monsters. While most original Godzilla fans are familiar with Mothra's rebirth tactic, or her reincarnation, for lack of better words. As the name suggests, it's where Mothra sacrifices herself or somehow dies, and her offspring takes her place. This is a very effective tactic and unique ability since she can reproduce asexually. For those who saw in the post-credits, she did lay an egg over in China, as she had it there after Godzilla was revived in the rebirth scene. She then returned for the battle in Boston. For those of you wondering where she went and why she dived out of the sky, I assure you it was not just for dramatic effect. To clear things further, Mothra's sacrifice was not for nothing, as her radioactive energy was transferred to Godzilla, giving him a much needed boost to defeat Ghidorah. So hopefully that clears up some confusion. Mothra is no stranger to sacrifice. Original fans know she's given her life fighting against antagonists plenty of times before. Like in Godzilla Final Wars, when she slams into Gigan after being set ablaze by Gigan's cluster light beam attack, which causes Gigan to explode, taking out both of them. There's also when Mothra dies while trying to carry her larva to safety. Mothra also fought to defend her egg in Godzilla vs. Mothra, which she managed to defend the egg, but paid the price at her own life. Mothra even took a blast from Godzilla's atomic breath that was meant for her larva. Talk about a dedicated mother. To an original Godzilla fan, there are some similarities with the MonsterVerse Mothra to previous versions that can be spotted at first glance. One being the monarch butterfly pattern on her wings in her Imago form. Second is her trademark glowing blue eyes. A third obvious similarity is her call that is heard when Godzilla uses his nuclear pulse on Ghidorah. Now, to the original fans that paid attention would have noticed that there was a Shobijin twin reference, with Dr. Chen, as she has a twin named Dr. Ling, who can be seen in the scene where Mothra emerges from her cocoon. The main difference being their hair. One has long braided hair, Dr. Ling, while the other has short hair, Dr. Chen. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Shobijin, they are tiny twin priestesses who can telepathically communicate with Mothra and translate her messages. So back to the Dr. Chen and Ling reference. In addition, both twins work for Monarch. The Dr. Chen and Dr. Ling twins are third-generation twins, and are also third-generation Monarch members. They also grew up on Infant Island, which is the island that in previous films was the home to Mothra and the tribe who worshipped her. There are about 7 different pairs of Shobijin in previous Mothra continuities, if you don't count the Godzilla anime trilogy twins. There are many differences of MonsterVerse Mothra compared to previous versions. Starting with her larva form, she has more color and more defined legs, which are larger than before. Instead of a brown segmented body, she has a smooth figure with a sort of winged-like cloak, which seems to be the remains of her egg covering her backside. Because of this, the audience does not get a complete look at her figure in her larva form. Even after the egg remains come off, her larva form is obscured in the temple scenes and obscured by the waterfall in the last shots we got of her in her larva form. However, other media depictions show her in her larva form more clearly. The MonsterVerse Mothra appears to have plating that looks to be a kind of chitin armor, similar to armor on some insects. She's able to control some of these plates at will, but with limited flexibility. In both her imago and larva forms, she has a bioluminescence which displays her emotions and can be used for intimidation tactics and other displays. Now let's talk about her imago form. In her imago form, she has much larger mantis-like limbs instead of the somewhat stubby legs she had previously. She has 4 front limbs that can be used as scythes in combat. She also has a retractable stinger in her abdomen. Her stinger and her scythe-like legs differ from previous versions. However, there are a few abilities that previous versions had that the MonsterVerse Mothra doesn't. For example, most older versions have energy attack abilities like beams that can be shot from her antenna or arc lightning that she can disperse from underneath her wings. Previous versions of Mothra are also able to produce powerful gusts of winds by flapping her wings. These winds can reach up to about 500 meters per second. The previous versions also had a last resort combat ability where she sheds her vital scales in a clouded attack. Older versions of Mothra had a more yellowish theme to them, while the MonsterVerse Mothra has a more bluish theme. The MonsterVerse Mothra can also produce silk in both her larva and imago form, while older versions could only produce silk in their larva form. Mothra has 2 common forms, larva and imago. However, Mothra Leo had about 7 forms: larva, imago, rainbow, aqua, lightspeed, armor, and eternal. There are about 3 generations of Mothra in the Showa era. If you count all continuations, there are currently 12 continuations of Mothra. In both older films and the MonsterVerse, Mothra was worshipped as a divine creature. While the MonsterVerse Mothra had a temple that was built for her, older versions called Infant Island their home. One exception being Destroy All Monsters, where Mothra lived on Monster Island with the other monsters. In all older versions but Destroy All Monsters, Mothra would have tiny telepathic twins known as the Shobijin. From what we've seen in the MonsterVerse, there are 3rd generation human twins who work for Monarch, and both are 3rd generation Monarch members, who seem to respect and recognize Mothra as a benevolent creature. The 1st generation Mothra appeared in its own film, Mothra, in 1961. The 1st generation Mothra would sacrifice herself for her offspring in Mothra vs. Godzilla in 1964. Thanks to the Shobijin, the 2nd generation twin larvae quickly hatch after their mother's sacrifice. After working together, the larva twins subdue Godzilla on Iwa Island by covering him in silk. Godzilla then plummets into the water below, and is not seen again for the rest of the film. Afterwards, the 2 larvae return to Infant Island with the Shobijin. The 2nd generation makes an appearance in Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster. Only one of the twins survived after the events of the previous film. The death of the other twin is unknown and is not shown in either films. The remaining larva then makes its way to defend Earth from Ghidorah. She then tries to convince Godzilla and Rodan, who were previously fighting each other after recently being awoken, to join her. The other 2 monsters refuse since they see no point in defending humanity. Mothra bravely then goes on to fight a losing battle against Ghidorah, which inspires Godzilla and Rodan to join the fight against the 3-headed menace. With their combined strength, the 3 monsters proved more than a match for Ghidorah and drove him back into space. After the events of Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster, the 2nd generation Mothra had already grown into her imago form off-screen and then appeared in Ibra, or of the Deep, where she was sleeping while her followers were abducted by members of Red Bamboo, a terrorist group that took refuge on Lechi Island. The terrorists used Mothra's people as slaves to make a liquid solution that was used to travel the ocean safely, since it repelled the giant prawn known as Ibra. The islanders that remained on Infant Island began to awaken Mothra to rescue her people from Lechi Island. She woke up eventually and headed to Lechi Island. When she got there, Godzilla had already destroyed the red bamboo setup on the island. Godzilla was fighting Ibera before he spotted Mothra. Godzilla then switched targets and began to chase down Mothra. After the islanders loaded into a net Mothra held, she began to leave, but was immediately confronted with Godzilla, who was trying to fight her. She quickly knocked down Godzilla, knowing that the island would soon self-destruct. She managed to get out of the blast zone in time, and returned to Infant Island with her people. The third generation of Mothra would be in Destroy All Monsters, although it's unconfirmed if this is the second generation offspring or not. This Mothra lived on Monster Island with the rest of the monsters in the film before they all fell under the Kilok's control. Under the Kilok's control, Mothra was sent to destroy Beijing in China. Mothra also helped destroy Tokyo alongside Godzilla, Rodan, and Manda. Mothra and the rest of the monsters were freed from the Kilok control from the help of humans. The monsters then made their way towards the Kilok base before encountering Ghidorah. Mothra helped the other monsters from a distance by spraying silk on a defeated King Ghidorah alongside Kumonga. Mothra's next appearance wouldn't be until the Heisei era, in the 1992 film Godzilla vs. Mothra, where she was known as a guardian of an advanced ancient civilization, until Batra, a dark counterpart to Mothra, was created. Batra's purpose was to destroy anything deemed a threat to life on Earth. He destroyed a climate control device that was deemed a threat before seeing humanity as a threat to Earth and set to eradicate all of humanity. Mothra intervened and fought Batra. The two battled until Mothra was able to subdue him at the cost of the destruction of the advanced civilization. She then placed Batra somewhere in the Northern Sea. Mothra then headed to Infant Island with the Cosmos, the renamed Shobijin, who were the remains of the advanced civilization that was destroyed in the battle against Batra. In 1992, since the Cosmos thought there was no point in keeping it on Infant Island, let Mothra's egg be transported to Japan by the Marutomo Company. On its way to Japan, the egg was attacked by Godzilla and Batra, who were recently awoken by a meteor. The egg hatched before taking any damage, and this time Mothra came out without a twin. She then briefly engaged Godzilla in combat by latching onto his tail. Batra appeared while Mothra was taking cover from Godzilla and charged towards Mothra, hitting her with a ram attack that sent her flying. Batra then began to fight Godzilla, eventually dragging him underwater. While the two fought beneath the waves, Mothra slipped away, back to Infant Island. Godzilla and Batra was swallowed by a volcano fault somewhere in the Philippine Trench. Mothra was later then summoned by the Shobijin to rescue the two priestesses from their greedy captors. She quickly made her way to their aid, all the while being bombarded by naval forces. Mothra ignored the assault and soon found the Shobijin were secured. The Shobijin reassured Mothra, and she went to leave in peace. Before she could leave the city, Mothra endured another assault from tank units. Mothra made her way to the National Diet building and cocooned herself. Meanwhile, Batra and Godzilla emerged from under the Earth's crust. Batra had soon turned into his imago form. When Mothra metamorphosed into her imago form, she flew off to face Batra. The two faced each other in Yokohama, before being interrupted by Godzilla. Seeing that Godzilla was a bigger threat, the two decided they needed to temporarily join forces to deal with Godzilla. After a long battle, the two were able to subdue Godzilla and began to carry him out to sea. Not too long after beginning their journey, Godzilla awoke and fired a ray of atomic breath which hit Batra with fatal results. After seeing Earth was secure, Mothra left Earth to intercept a meteor that was heading towards the planet. In 1995, Mothra learned of a Godzilla-like clone known as Space Godzilla was heading towards Earth to conquer it. In response to this threat, Mothra sent a telepathic projection of herself, known as Fairy Mothra, to Earth to warn Miki Sagusa, a well-known telepathic member of G-Force, of Space Godzilla's approach. Thanks to Mothra's warning, Miki was able to ensure Space Godzilla was dealt with by Godzilla and G-Force. Mothra also got her own movie trilogy known as The Rebirth of Mothra. It was in the first movie of the trilogy that she would appear next. As the last of her kind, the giant guardian moth, Mothra would live out her days in peace on Infant Island with her remaining priestesses, now known as the Alias. There are 3 known Shobijin, or Alias, in the trilogy. Laura, Mull, who is referred to as Mona, and Belvira. Unlike the previous films, the twin priestesses of Mothra in this series are not one entity, separate individuals. Mull represents wisdom, and she is the brave one who knows what must be done no matter the difficulty, while Laura represents love and puts the lives of others first. Then there is their elder sister, Belvira, who represents courage, who is, or at least once was, as conscious about nature as her siblings, but sees humans as a destructive force and despises humanity for the damage caused to the planet. Laura and Mull reside with Mothra. As her death grew near, Mothra made sure to prepare an egg to carry on her legacy. Before she could live out her end in peace, Mothra was called upon to fight once more against an old rival her kind fought before, a 3-headed dragon that once ravaged Mars uninhabited, a beast known as Desghidorr, or Death Ghidorr. Once sealed away by the guardian moths, he would break free again after his seal was broken accidentally by a construction company. After digging out of his tomb, Desghidorr went to work, starting by clearing the Earth's forests. Mothra goes to confront Desghidorr, and the 2 battle while being coached by their Shobijin. Belvira, the elder Shobijin, guiding Desghidorr, while the other 2, Laura and Mull, guided Mothra. Meanwhile, the egg Mothra laid began to prematurely hatch. The larva, known as Mothra Leo, quickly joined his mother in combat against Desghidorr. Even with their combined strength, they were no match for Desghidorr. As the tide of battle began to shift, Mothra grabbed her son and began to carry him out to sea to safety. The 2 flew over the sea, back to Infant Island. Soon Mothra's strength began to fail her, and she fell, dropping the larva and struggling to stay afloat. Her larva rushed to her side and tried in vain to assist his mother. Mothra began to sink below, leaving her son to mourn her death. The larva, fueled by the need to avenge his mother, went to the ancient tree to cocoon himself. The larva emerged as a more powerful form called Mothra Leo. Mothra Leo then quickly made his way to face Desghidorr. The 2 fought, and Mothra Leo was able to seal Desghidorr away once more, avenging his mother and restoring the plant life affected by Desghidorr. Mothra Leo went on to fight the toxic monster Dagara. He nearly lost the battle when Dagara launched a poisonous starfish called Barum onto Mothra Leo, which subdued him until he was revived by a creature called Gahogo, a creation of Nilila Kaname that sacrificed itself for Mothra Leo, transforming him into a more powerful form, known as Rainbow Mothra. The 2 fought again, and Dagara tried to flee by swimming deep underwater, knowing that Mothra could not be in water. This did not stop Mothra. He quickly transformed into an aquatic form and dove under the waves to continue the fight. After a lot of energy beam attacks, Mothra defeated Dagara by splitting into countless micro-Mothras and destroying Dagara from the inside. If that wasn't bad enough, Dagara also exploded alongside Nilila Kane Temple. Mothra Leo had won again, but at the cost of the destruction of the last remnants of the Nilila Kanane civilization. The 3rd movie in the trilogy would bring back a well-known kaiju. Rainbow Mothra would face off against the infamous King Ghidorah. Instead of trying to destroy the world like usual, Ghidorah begins abducting children by somehow teleporting them to a strange organic bubble. Ghidorah does this simply by flying over his victims. Rainbow Mothra first tries to confront King Ghidorah, and for a time had Ghidorah on the run. The tables turned fast, and Rainbow Mothra was nearly killed by Ghidorah. Mothra decided there was one way to defeat Ghidorah: to to travel back when Ghidorah was weaker, the first time Ghidorah came to Earth, in the Cretaceous period. Mothra went back, but at the cost of Maul's life. The two kaiju fought, and Mothra grabbed Cretaceous Ghidorah and flew them both into an active volcano. Mothra survived, but was severely wounded, and Mothra lay there, dying. Then several primitive larva Mothras gathered around him. They encased Mothra in a cocoon. In the present day, Ghidorah and his strange organic prison vanished. The previously trapped kids were relieved, but it was short-lived as Ghidorah reappeared and vacuumed up the children once more. The two remaining Shobijin flew to battle Ghidorah, but to no effect. Meanwhile, the ground shook, and Mothra burst from his cocoon. He had taken a new armored form, simply known as Armor Mothra. Mothra flew to engage Ghidorah, who fought back furiously but to no avail. Mothra sliced off Ghidorah's left wing. Ghidorah mustered up an attack to match, only to find Mothra simply ignored it as he flew through Ghidorah. One of Ghidorah's heads turned to face Mothra before freezing up with the rest of the body. Then finally, Ghidorah exploded, freeing his captives. Mothra then helped revive Maul and left to return home to Infant Island. The Millennium series Mothra would first appear in the 2001 Godzilla film, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, also known as GMK. This film took a more spiritual take, more than most Godzilla films, as Godzilla was said to be a manifestation of the victims of World War II, while at the same time still being an animal. While the other three monsters were the guardian monsters. Mothra, who was slain in ancient times by warriors of Japan, was then laid to rest in Lake Hokkaido. She was awoken by the modern-day prophet Hirotoshi Isayama. When she awoke, she killed a troublesome group of people that planned on drowning a dog before Mothra flipped their rowboat and came after the rest of the members. Though her killing the group is not seen by the audience, it is stated in the news report the protagonist happens to be watching the next day. After her metamorphosis, Mothra headed to Yokohama to battle Godzilla. She arrived and the two briefly fought before Ghidorah joined and aided Mothra. This was the first and so far the only time Ghidorah fought alongside Mothra, let alone played the role of a protagonist. Godzilla temporarily knocked down both, when a slightly fire-lit Mothra rose to hit Godzilla with a surprise attack. Godzilla quickly turned and blasted her away with a breath attack. Mothra's death would not be in vain, however, as her energy transferred to a downed King Ghidorah, which then boosted the beast and caused a quick growth spurt. As King Ghidorah started to attack, Godzilla fled under the waves to regroup, and Ghidorah followed. The two fought underwater while Admiral Tachibana and Commander Yukata Hiroshi dove under the waves in order to fire DO-3 missiles at Godzilla. After the two remaining monsters rise up and continue their fight on the surface, Godzilla absorbs Ghidorah's gravity beam attacks and combines it with his atomic breath, firing a spiral breath attack which destroys Ghidorah. Before Godzilla could wreak havoc again, the spirits of Baragon, Ghidorah, and Mothra materialize in the sky and go into Godzilla's body, causing him to sink. Godzilla manages to swallow the sub that Tachibana is in. The sub fires a DO-3 missile into a Ghidorah-inflicted wound. Godzilla surfaces and charges up his atomic breath attack. The DO-3 missile stops him by drilling through his chest wound before exploding. Godzilla again tries to fire his atomic breath, but instead of coming out his mouth, it bursts from his chest, plunging him back underwater as he tries again to use his atomic breath, but the pressure from his attempts causes him to eventually explode. Tachibana's sub surfaced as he escaped from Godzilla before he exploded, leaving only Godzilla's heart on the seafloor, which was still beating. Unlike in GMK, her previous appearance, Mothra's next appearance would have continuity with her first film, in Godzilla Tokyo SOS, a 2003 Godzilla film. Mothra travels with the Shobijin to Tokyo to warn humans not to use Kiryu, a mech made from the first Godzilla's bones. The Shobijin thought that mankind was crossing the line between life and death by making and using Kiryu from Godzilla's bones. They offered that in Kiryu's place, Mothra would defend Tokyo from Godzilla. The government becomes hesitant about the offer and decides to put their faith in Kiryu. Godzilla surfaces and begins to attack Tokyo, and Mothra, despite the humans declining her offer, is summoned to confront him. They fought while Kiryu was launched to aid Mothra. Meanwhile, Mothra's egg hatches. Mothra's twin larvae arrive to assist their mother, only to watch her sacrifice herself for them. The two larvae are inspired by their mother's courage and assist Kiryu in taking down Godzilla. The two larvae succeed in encasing Godzilla in silk. Kiryu then takes Godzilla to the sea, and the both of them sink to the bottom. Next incarnation of Mothra was in Godzilla Final Wars, a 2004 Godzilla film, where she once defended Earth from Gigan in ancient times. The Shobijin warned the EDF, Earth Defense Force, of this when the organization finds the mummified remains of Gigan. When the Exilians, aliens from Planet X near Jupiter, invaded Earth with mind-controlled monsters, Mothra left Infant Island to aid Godzilla in his battle against the Exilians' mind-controlled pawns. She was intercepted by a repaired Gigan that had gone up against Godzilla but was defeated. This updated Gigan had chainsaws for hands, unlike any previous incarnations, which he used in his first fight with Mothra to cut a piece of her wing off. In their next battle, Gigan fired his cluster light beam attack, seemingly defeated Mothra. And when Gigan went to strike a victory pose, two of his saw blades he launched at Mothra before it came back and cut off his head. His body moved around in confusion before a flaming Mothra came out and slammed into Gigan, killing both in an explosion. The 2017 to 2018 anime Godzilla trilogy also featured Mothra but briefly. In the second film of the trilogy, she was alluded at, but only her egg was shown. In the third film, Mothra shows up indirectly in visions. She also is confirmed to have at least 3 ancestors in the Godzilla anime continuity. Then, of course, there is the most recent incarnation of Mothra that brought more recognition to the character. The well-renowned Godzilla King of the Monsters Mothra, the Queen of the Monsters, not to mention the most unique version. We start off seeing her in a blue glowing egg, which hatches, and for a time, Mothra is docile, at least until there is a malfunction with the containment equipment set in place to hold Mothra. Both humans and Mothra become more on edge until one of the security personnel cracks under the pressure and opens fire, sending Mothra in a semi-hostile mode. Although Mothra seems aggressive and begins to attack and destroy objects around her, in this mode she does not severely harm or kill anyone, even though she seemed more than ready to. Using the Orca, Emma Russell manages to help calm Mothra. Later on, you can see Mothra on a Monarch monitor screen, while she is under a waterfall. Mothra metamorphosizes into her imago form as Dr. Ling, Dr. Chen's twin, witnesses. Mothra then appears at Outpost 54 and helps Monarch find Godzilla. After Godzilla is revived, Mothra then flies to China to lay an egg. She then later appears to assist Godzilla in his fight against Ghidorah, only to be taken on by Rodan, as Rodan only answered to Ghidorah. Rodan pinned Mothra down, but before he could finish her off, Rodan was impaled by Mothra's retractable stinger. Mothra then made her last stand by facing against Ghidorah before he could attack Godzilla again. Mothra was swiftly blasted away by Ghidorah's gravity beams before she could even close the distance between them. Mothra's energy rained down on her wounded counterpart. Ghidorah tried to finish off Godzilla, but the humans drew him away from Godzilla and bought him enough time to recover. Godzilla entered his burning stage, or Fire Godzilla form, thanks to the energy he absorbed from Mothra. Godzilla began dispersing his nuclear power in nuclear pulses that damaged Ghidorah greatly each time. Each time Godzilla let out a nuclear pulse, there would be a shape reminiscent of Mothra on the bubble-like wave of energy. Mothra's cries can also be heard upon each pulse. Ghidorah was swiftly defeated by Godzilla in his burning state, making Mothra's sacrifice far from in vain. Overall, Mothra, no matter what form she takes, seems to be an angelic and divine creature whose intents are almost always for peace. However, you would be a fool to mistake her kindness for weakness, because Mothra is always ready to fight against any force at any cost. Hey everybody, what's up? Wow, this took a while. This is the third installment of my discussion series. Got a few things here to discuss before you guys get on your way. I need to let you know about my schedule update. Now, my last two videos seemed a bit rushed, and I think I could have done better with more time, so I am going to do bi-weekly uploads. I know it sucks because I love giving you content and making all kinds of content, but I want to try to make sure it's good content you're receiving. So I'm going to do quality over quantity. To stick to a weekly schedule is crazy unless I'm pumping out videos that are just low quality, and I don't really want to do that. Now I am going to have like filler content probably, but what I mean by that is, when I say content filler, I mean other videos to fill the gap when I'm working on big projects like this. Make sure you read the description, look at the labels, not gonna constrain it too much. Everybody has like other content, sometimes you gotta filter through. Like, oh yeah, look at that, he did a live stream, blah blah blah. Oh, look at that, he uploaded this, he uploaded that. So everybody has a little bit of random content filler here and there. I'm gonna make sure it's decent. I'm not gonna be like Rice Gum or something and just like have like a 3-minute outro or something. And if I do, it better be a good outro. Nah, I'm just kidding. So now that all that schedule stuff is out of the way, I would like to discuss something about the MonsterVerse. I think they're gonna bring Mothra back, but I highly doubt it's gonna be in Godzilla vs. Kong. There have been theories where she comes back in the next movie and pretty much breaks up the fight between Kong and Godzilla. I don't know, that sounds a little too far-fetched. I think we will see Mothra again. I just doubt that it's going to be in Godzilla vs. Kong. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. I put a lot of work into this video, so hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you liked, what you might like to see. But if you guys have any suggestions for how I can do things better, let me know in the comments. And as always, this is your boy Soy, signing off.